Are you ready to say goodbye to your Christmas decorations, but not ready to part with the cozy winter vibes? Well, don't let the post-holiday blues get you down. Instead, think of this time as an opportunity to give your home a refresh. Today, I'll be sharing 10 creative ways to make your home feel warm and welcoming all season long. I'll be repurposing Christmas decor, DIYing some winter decor, and incorporating a few new thrift store finds. So, let's get started. Here is a list of items that I consider when transitioning from Christmas to winter decor. The first order of business is deciding which items are Christmas specific and need to be packed away, and which items we want to leave out a little longer. There are no right or wrong decisions. Pack away those things that you're tired of looking at and leave out those items that will continue to bring you joy in the cold months ahead. I like to pack away ornaments and bows and Christmas knickknacks, but I like to leave out some of the Christmas candles and greenery. I kept the sparkly flowers in this wreath, but removed the bow and ornaments and added a few eucalyptus stems. And although I think simple green garland can be used year-around, I prefer to take mine down after the holidays. To change up my mantle, I removed a piece of trellis work and added a vintage print with warm, faded colors. And I removed the art print from the small ornate frame next to it. I used a dab of antiquing wax to disguise a couple scratches on the front of the art print. Then I rearranged the greenery, pine cones, and dried flowers that had been on the mantle. Although I love bottle brush trees, it's my preference to have them out only at Christmas time. So I replaced this one in the silver sugar bowl with a vintage doily. I considered leaving these natural woven cone trees out, but I decided I was ready for a change. I also considered leaving out this beautiful wintry needlepoint scene that I found at the thrift store, but ultimately I decided that it just felt too Christmassy for me. So I replaced it with a dried eucalyptus wreath that I purchased on clearance at Hobby Lobby. It was a little smashed when I bought it, but it fluffed out nicely. Most decorators tell you to pack up all of your red decor after Christmas, but I like having red out year-around. And so I decided to restage these little plaid suitcases. I removed the Christmassy pine greenery and replaced it with a faux asparagus fern. And I definitely wanted to pack away these glittery pine cones that I bought at Dollar Tree this year. I put my vintage bird cage in their spot. It's still filled with the plastic pumpkins that I painted white for autumn, but I love how they look, so I'm not changing them out until spring. I also wanted to remove most of the items from this Christmas vignette in my kitchen china cabinet. I decided to move my coffee pot here and use this area as a little coffee bar. I played around with keeping several of the thermoses out, but ultimately only ended up leaving one out. I hung some vintage thrift store prints on the wall. I find that Velcro works great when attaching things to tile. I thought these vintage prints coordinated really well with the vintage tins that I like to use to store my coffee, tea, and K-cups. As you're packing away your Christmas decor and looking at the things you own, consider the look that you would like to achieve in your home. Personally, I have always loved traditional English cottage, but recently I have been leaning toward its subclass known as dark academia. Once most of the Christmas decor was packed away, I was ready to head to the thrift store for some fresh inspiration. Even though it was a little dirty, you know this Pottery Barn bird pillow was coming home with me. I was also really drawn to this cream-colored Afghan for only $7.99. I loved the shape of this end table, and I absolutely adored this leather chair. In fact, I'm kicking myself that I didn't buy it. What was I thinking? I loved the wintry look of these white birdhouses, and I found a couple good deals on some very nice spring flowers. I thought this plant stand was really unusual, and I really wanted to bring this large gold frame home with me, but if there's one thing I don't need more of, it's picture frames. My card is usually a lot more colorful than this, but I guess this neutral palette is appropriate for winter. I also picked up a few things at a second thrift store, including a bag of vintage doilies that I decided to incorporate into my decor, since they kind of remind me of snowflakes, and I love how they add texture wherever you place them. Although I packed away the Christmas-specific pillows, I left out the fluffy and velvety ones. My thrift store Afghan would add even more texture to this chair in my kitchen library. I wanted to create a very textural wreath, and so I ordered these inexpensive pom-pom makers from Amazon. You snap the two sides together, and then you begin wrapping your yarn around the curved portion on one side of the pom-pom maker. Continue wrapping the yarn around that arm until it's full, and you'll know it's full because the yarn will be level across the bottom. Then pull the yarn to the opposite side and begin wrapping the yarn around the curved arm on that side until it's full. Once that side is full, snap the two sides together to form a circle and cut the end of your yarn. Then, using a sharp pair of scissors, cut down the middle of the circle on both sides. Then, cut a long strand of yarn and wrap it around the circle. Then, pull it taut and tie it in a knot. You might want to knot it a couple times for good measure. Then, open up the flaps and carefully pull the pom-pom maker apart. You might need to trim the pom-pom up just a bit, but overall they come out very neat and uniform in size. To create a wreath, you could use any wreath form that you have on hand. I chose to use this straw one that I picked up at Goodwill. The two ends of the strand of yarn that are tied around the center of each pom-pom make it very easy just to tie the pom-poms onto the wreath form. I just kept adding pom-poms until I was happy with how the wreath looked. I'll be honest, it takes a lot of pom-poms, but I actually enjoyed making them, and I just did it while I watched TV. I stuck in a little faux flower just for a pop of color. Lighting plays a significant role in creating a warm atmosphere in a room. I picked up this unusual lamp at Goodwill to add a little more lighting to my somewhat dark family room this winter. I loved that this lamp looked like flowers, but I didn't love its bronze color, so I decided to apply some gold wax to see if I could change the color a bit. Although I loved the gold color, the wax was really streaky, and then I remembered that I had a tube of Rub and Buff, so I decided to try that instead, and it worked like a charm. I applied it mostly with my finger, but I did need to apply some of the Rub and Buff to a wax brush to get into all of those crevices. I need to get some low wattage bulbs because right now it's creating more of a spotlight effect than the soft, warm glow that I was hoping for. I was considering sitting the base of the lamp inside a wicker basket. What do you think? You'll have to let me know. 2 ways to add visual warmth to a room are to use candles and warm-toned metals. So during the winter months, you may want to incorporate brass, copper, or gold accessories and avoid using cooler silver metals. I even included some brass reindeer in this vignette on my ottoman. I think they look cute and wintry and not too Christmassy. Another way to bring some winter cheer to your home is by using winter-themed wall arts or prints. I remembered that I already have several wintry landscape prints, all purchased from thrift stores, that once hung in my stairwell. I brought them up from the basement and measured the wall space where I wanted to hang them. I marked that space out with masking tape on my living room floor so that I could play around with the arrangement before hanging the prints on the wall. Before I started hanging them on the wall, I took one of the prints out and put it in a different frame that I liked better. If you've never done this, it's actually quite easy and a great way to take advantage of cheap but quality frames that you find at thrift stores. Since I had already planned out the picture frame arrangement on my living room floor, I pretty much just eyeballed the placement of the frames on the wall. However, I do find that it is very helpful to make sure that each frame is hung level before adding another frame. That way, I can accurately assess the amount of space between each frame. Most of the prints were black and white, except for the small center one, and that was bugging me, so I decided to print out a different wintry landscape. I'll link some of the public domain images that I found. The image that I replaced was one that I cut from a magazine, and I actually still really like it, so I might put it in a different frame and find another spot for it. I am so glad that I thought to put these pictures here, because I have always loved these prints, and I really enjoy looking at them. Now, I just need to decide if I should paint the silver frames a different color or not. What do you guys think? Because we spend so much time indoors during the winter months, it's nice to have elements of nature around us. Many of you know that I love incorporating sticks and pine cones from my yard into my home decor. When decorating this chair, I first removed the Christmas-specific items and even the one red book. I also replaced the tree branches with the dried red berries with some white sticks that I found in my stash. And of course, I added plenty of pine cones. And even though poinsettias are a traditional Christmas flower, I think this white felt one looks very wintry. Next, I wanted to make a simple winter garland. First, I measured out and cut a long strand of jute twine. Then I began drilling holes in the center of a bag of wood slices that I purchased at Dollar Tree. Then I strung the wood slices on my strand of jute twine and spread them out evenly. I inserted a little hot glue into each of the drilled holes to keep the wood slices from sliding around. Finally, I hot glued a felt snowflake to the twine in between each of the wood slices. I bought this bag of snowflakes at Hobby Lobby in the Christmas clearance section. I love how this simple, inexpensive garland brings a little bit of the outdoors inside, and I think it'll be very easy to update for spring.
In fact, I like to include a few touches of spring decor to remind me that spring is just around the corner. So I propped a bird on a block of wood behind the picture frame, and I incorporated both of those white birdhouses that I purchased at Goodwill into my mantel display. The warm-toned frames and metals, in combination with the wintry greens, dried flowers, and pine cones, help the birdhouses look more like winter decor than spring decor. I had also purchased a faux grape hyacinth plant at Goodwill, but I wasn't loving its generic white pot. When it wouldn't fit inside a brass bowl that I wanted to use, I decided to break the plant out of the pot. Then I gave it a good dusting with some silk plant cleaner, and now I'm loving this hint of spring in my bookcase. I hope today's video inspired you to give your own home a refresh this year. And if you're looking for more ideas, here's another video I think you may enjoy. Thank you so much for watching, and Happy New Year!